We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our friends at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use the box at sign up for 10 points. And here we go.
Well, good morning, everyone. And at least we all know we will survive, unlike Nate Robinson. Only on the Sports Box Network. I am Mike Letta, along with Brian the Ranger Retard and Tony Quigley, and this is the NFL Review. Morning, gentlemen. How's everybody?
What's going on, Mikey? Mike?
Living the dream.
Living the dream, unlike Nate Robinson. If anybody saw that last night, oh my God, did he get nasty hit? Oh, that was brutalized. That was brutal.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
No, definitely wasn't.
Real quick though, how is that, Tony? You're a boxer. How is that a draw?
It was scheduled to be a draw. You can tell by the rules.
Well, okay, but I mean, like, it wasn't really a draw. Like Tyson.
Didn't Tyson out hit him? I thought I saw something Tyson out.
Like you can't, like, no one should have went into that fight expecting it to be a
knockout.
Yeah, like an actual boxing match. When there's all the rules and stipulations, it was an exhibition. Because he couldn't get licensed by any kind of proper boxing authority in California. So there's no reason for either person to actually win that fight. So, I mean, it wasn't a draw, but it doesn't go on the record. I mean, it doesn't matter.
No, they got their money, so they're happy. So we will talk about the NFL in review, the crazy NFL this week.
Preview.
COVID hitting the NFL hard this week.
Preview, not review.
Oh, sorry, preview. Well,
preview is back. We do that on Tuesdays. Preview.
Yeah, that's why I get names wrong. That's fine. Our NFL preview show. So we will talk about the crazy NFL this week. Some news about Denver, Santa Clara for the Niners, but we will get into all that. But first, let's talk about our boys over at CrowdPlay.
Guys, check out the CrowdPlay app. A lot of fun stuff going on. Use code THEBOX at sign up. Get 10 free points. Apple, App Store, Google Play. Totally free to play. Can win cash and prizes by predicting the outcome and some trivia questions. Give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. I suck at it. Maybe you'll do better.
Yeah, I suck at it too. So I don't brag that I do anything with it. So anyway, Brian, we got a lot to talk about.
We do. And it's funny. This was the breaking news yesterday that Detroit Lions have mercifully fired head coach Matt Patricia, GM Bob Quinn. Patricia, in his tenure in Detroit, a robust 13-29-1. Don't forget about the one. I left this team for dead 3 weeks ago, and I guess it's 4 weeks ago now against the Jaguars. They won that game, won a couple after that. I guess the 0 points in Carolina and that stinker they put up at home against Houston on Thanksgiving Day was the final death knell here. The Belichick coaching tree continues to bear no fruit whatsoever. There is nobody who has left Bill Belichick as a coach, not like Vrabel didn't coach there, as a coach, went anywhere else and has done jack. So you think of like these historic trees, the tree, Holmgren and all these guys who have just like, even Reed now from the Holmgren tree is like branched out into all these other teams.
So when does Holmgren get his own tree though? Isn't Holmgren from the Bill Walsh tree?
That's true. There you go. That's
all like a bush.
It's like a family in Alabama. They're all connected.
Nice.
But
there's a lot of people in Alabama watching.
all the Belichick guys just don't pan out. And Patricia was absolutely terrible in Detroit. Really, really bad. Much worse than Caldwell, who didn't get a fair shake when he was replaced. So for you guys, I mean, listen, Stafford's not getting any younger. It very much feels like a microcosm of Atlanta. Same kind of scenario where they never won jack. Offense was always pretty good. Defense never was very good. Coaches just keep getting recycled. Where do the Lions go from here?
I think the first thing they need to do is they need to get healthy. I mean, I think that's first and foremost. Their entire offense was pretty much out on Thanksgiving. I don't know if they're get a leg up on Turkey or what. But when you're looking at it, no Kelly Golladay, no DeAndre Swift. I mean, they're banged up. I mean, they were going into that game really shorthanded, and I think it was just a good spot for them to make a change. I don't. The recent draft history hasn't been too impressive at all. I mean, they really had some swings and misses. I think T.J. Hawkinson, where they drafted him and what their need wasn't a very good pick. So it's like they just need to restructure. They do have the franchise quarterback I think Matt Stafford was the last quarterback who made the rookie scale. And so he's made an insane amount of money. So that hasn't helped the Detroit franchise either when you're talking about salary cap situation. So they do have some decent young parts. I mean, if you just look at a trio of Galladay, Swift, and Stafford, then okay, now they have to build from within, I think. And they're going to have to they just have to get an overhaul, It's just that simple.
Yeah, and I agree with Tony. The injuries have hurt Detroit, but Brian, we had talked about it before on our show about this was coming from Matt Patricia. He starts losing, they're gonna axe him, and I thought they were gonna axe him last week after their loss, but last week when they got shut out, that was, I think, the last straw. I mean, if he would have scored any kind of points, maybe he goes another couple weeks, but I think the shutout just knocked him over the edge. But you know what? In his defense, I mean, they were hurt this year.
The injuries have hurt.
Yeah, I mean, like Thanksgiving, DeAndre Swift was out. You had Galladay out. You had a lot of guys that were hurt, and COVID's hit this team too as well. I mean, Detroit was kind of doomed from the start, but I think they're on the right track. They just got to get somebody in there that's more defensive oriented. I mean, Patricia just didn't get it done. I mean, he came from a Patriots team that, they were strong on defense, but he just couldn't get it done in Detroit. They need a guy to come in there and really set Detroit straight on the defense, because defense wins, guys. No matter how much offense we have, defense wins. It's not like the old Saints days where they're outscoring teams 45 to 35. They're outblasting teams. You got to have some defense to slow some teams down.
The Detroit Lions have exactly one playoff win since 1957.
Wow. Bad.
1992, Brian.
The Dallas Cowboys, 1992. 1991, I'm sorry.
And they've gotten in. They just can't get over the hump. I mean, Stafford's had three shots in the playoffs. They're all road games. They haven't hosted a playoff game since 1993. Yeah.
So
didn't they play the Eagles in the snow that one year?
That wasn't a playoff game. That was just a regular game. They got their asses handed to them by the Eagles in 95. That was a 52-17 game.
Yep.
I remember that vividly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you're looking at the GM, I mean, their draft history hasn't been the best, but I mean, it hasn't been the dumpster fires of some. I think when coming into this season, I think most people thought their draft was a solid draft with Okudah, at the top, with the shoring up the cornerback spot, and Swift. Mm-hmm. I think that
you can't label that at Okudah's feet. I mean, he's a rookie coming into the league. I mean, at least they're on the right path. They know the defense. They have to start building on defense. They have DeAndre Swift, and they got to start building on defense. They have to.
I mean, they've been trying though. I mean, listen, you talk about players who also talk about got to give him credit. He drafted Travis Fulgham as well. So let's not forget that one. I mean, when you're looking at their draft history, outside of the reach for Hockenson at 8 overall, I mean, they've been trying to do O-line and defense for the most part. So, I mean, it's like the philosophy's there, but it's not working. So I think that might be more of a Patricia issue than a Quinn issue.
Yeah, and real quick, I like the Hockenson move, even though it's kind of high for a tight end. The guy is a good player. They get him involved too. That's the big thing. If you just you got him involved a little bit here and there, and a couple passes a game. They get him involved. He's a part of the offense.
I'm not disputing that, and I have to go back and look at that draft again to see who went after him. But the defense has been such a. I mean, they can't hit on defensive pick.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you don't think Okudah was a decent defensive?
I don't know that yet.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like when you're looking at the draft history, it's thing. But see, here's the thing. Okay, they took Hockenson at 8, right? Then you got Buffalo, Ed Oliver right behind him in Buffalo. You have Devin Bush. Then you have Jonah Williams as a guard. Rashawn Gary. I mean, all these guys are playing. Christian Wilkinson. I mean, you're looking at right behind them, very solid defensive player that could help that defensive line.
Right.
So listen, Hockenson hasn't been the most productive player. He's been okay. I mean, he's been a little injury prone, so I'm not going to say that. I mean, he hasn't been as good. And, the 4th, 5th, 6th round in the NFL draft is littered with tight ends that are just as productive. I mean, you go look at the top tight ends right now outside of Travis Kelce and, a couple others. They're none of them are 8 picks.
Well, I say that, Tony, because I look at the Bucs when they drafted O.J. Howard. They moved up to get him, and they wanted him to get involved, but they never got him part of the offense early. I mean, they got him in the second or third year. They started moving him a little bit, but in the first year, he barely caught the ball. He was a blocking tight end. So that's why I'm saying with Hockenson, at least they're getting him involved in the offense.
And what draft pick was O.J. Howard?
Number 11 or 12.
Was he that high?
It was 19.
19. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought he was lower.
I want to say 19, maybe 17, but I think it was 19.
When you take a top 10 player on a skill position, any skill position outside of quarterback, it better be an impact player. You can go through the running backs position that me and Brian are always talking about, complete whiff if you do that in the top 10 because of the money you have to pay. Then you look at the receivers position. There hasn't been many receivers in the history of the NFL that were drafted in the top 10 that have been directly related to bringing their team a Super Bowl. All right. So now you're going to put a top 10 pick in a tight end. That he better be, Kittle and Kelsey wrapped up in the one. And I think,
which were not first round picks.
Yeah, exactly. So, when you're looking at it, I think, Bob Quinn, I don't think he's done a horrible job, but, when he missed, he's missed pretty big.
Guys, breaking news, per Adam Schefter, Broncos and Ravens are under investigation for potential discipline for alleged COVID protocol violations. So they're going to review that.
Given the fact where those teams are right now with the amount of players that are missing, I guess that does kind of make sense.
And I saw that James Conner was positive today. I mean, listen, the NFL has gotten lucky to this point with the least amount of tests that they had or least amount of positives. It seems like they're all hitting these last 2 weeks. They're really it's picking up. I mean, they've really not dropped the ball, but they've really gotten lax with the coverings and stuff. Seems like it's starting to pick up in the NFL a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't stop it.
That's an understatement when you have so many players out. I mean,
and named players. I just saw that Andrews is out for Tuesday night too. So
Adam Thielen, Mark Andrews. I mean, the list goes on and on. So
guys. Yeah. So we'll stick with the Lions here. The early game on Thanksgiving Day, which put you in a coma early, 41-25. Texans fall to 4. It's raised to 4-7. Lions fall to 4-7. Detroit's now lost 4 straight on Thanksgiving. They've lost 4 of their last 5 by 10+ points. For Houston, Will Fuller, who was not traded at the deadline but probably should have been, 5th player with 150+ receiving yards and 2+ touchdowns on Thanksgiving. They did end up cutting Kenny Stills since that game. Kind of peculiar. Didn't really trade him. Again, one of those things where, hey, you probably could have got something for somebody. From the Houston side of things, as we've well chronicled, they do not have their first round picks, so anything that they do right now doesn't really matter. They're not really getting the fruit of any losses anyway. But we've mentioned to Detroit here, for Houston, it's clear. If you had any doubt that Deshaun can do things kind of on his own, I think that this year especially, that's kind of really gone by the wayside. Even with the offensive line problems, he's still doing it every day. They have a lot of work to do, but again, you can't continue to get blown out on Thanksgiving, and when you're on national TV with the spotlight on you and expect to keep your job. Matt Patricia just stinks. I'm not a Patricia guy whatsoever. He should not get another job in the league, in my opinion.
No, I think he just does a little, things a little bit too much like the Belichick way. And when you're not winning, that's what the issue is. You can't put this Belichick system in and with the rules and all kinds of stuff. And, Belichick gets away with it because of the results, because of the results-based orient. But I think what we got to realize with this Houston team is how good has Deshaun Watson been without Bill O'Brien. They made that coaching change, and he just elevates his game to the next level. I mean, he's throwing, Will Fuller, if he's healthy, he has a big game every now and then, but he's making him look like a star. I mean, Brandon Cooks has they don't even have David Johnson. Duke Johnson is the one doing work there. So, I mean, I think you're seeing really what they're paying Deshaun Watson big money for, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, Will Fuller looks great, and let's give a little bit of handout to the Texans defense, who's played really well, who rushing the quarterback. You actually see J.J. Watt now in on plays, actually making plays. So it's a good feeling all around that Bill O'Brien's going for the Texans, and they're really picking it up. I mean, they were doing backlot stuff to Detroit the other day with the flea flicker that they threw to Fuller, who could have stood there for 20 minutes and still caught the ball. I mean, it was unbelievable how open the Texans were and how bad Detroit played.
This is a situation, though, if you feel that the firing of Bill O'Brien somehow sparked the Texans a little bit, I don't necessarily see that for Detroit. And Drew Trammell asked, what coach is coming in for Detroit? What GM? Who would you guys choose? Is Stafford leaving? If I'm Detroit, this is my problem. My problem is very much like Atlanta. They're in a situation where they have a quarterback that they really are kind of in limbo with. He's 32, so he has some time obviously left, but it's a turnstile and with the coaching here, I can't ever get any sort of consistency there. For me, I mean, they went to the Belichick tree. They went for a first-time guy in Patricia. That didn't work. Caldwell was kind of a bit of a retread. That worked, I guess, somewhat, but they moved on. At some point, Eric Bieniemy's got to get a job. And I think if Detroit is serious about getting, my only concern with that is it's the defense that has the problem, but you're going from a defensive head coach that didn't work. So I don't know. I mean, Bieniemy's got to get a look. For all these teams that need coaching, he needs to get a look.
But do you think he's a good fit for what they're trying to do?
I don't know, because again, the offense is not really their issue. When they're healthy, they're fine. It's just
Eric Bieniemy could come in. He's a career running backs coach, offensive coordinator, everything like that. But the one thing he can't do, everybody's saying that Eric Bieniemy is top of the list, needs a job. He's not going to go there and turn Matt Stafford at this point of his career into Pat Mahomes. Great quarterbacks make average coaches, bad coaches look good. Look what Dallas is doing to Mike McCarthy. You see he's a fraud right now. So, I mean, is Bieniemy somebody who could turn that franchise around? I don't know. He's definitely going to get a shot somewhere. And, obviously, he's been a hot person that says, he deserves a shot. But, one of the names that you got to look out for is the dumpster fire that's in Ann Arbor right now in Michigan. And Jim Harbaugh has a ton of NFL interest to him, and a lot of people pry him. So he might make the ride down the street there from Ann Arbor to Detroit and get a look there, because you've seen how he did turn a bad San Francisco franchise into a contender in the Super Bowl in a relatively quick period of time. So I'll look for Harbaugh to get some looks there. I don't know how that they're soured on him in Michigan. Eric Bieniemy, Jim Caldwell.
Talk about retreads. Hey, come on back.
Yeah, it won't be Jim Caldwell. I can show that. Yeah, I think Bieniemy would be good there because he could help DeAndre Swift a little bit. Not that he needs any guidance. He looks like he's on track to be a really star in this league. But I mean, you're talking about a running backs coach. I mean, he could help DeAndre Swift really get going. With the defense, listen, there's a first for everything. He's got to learn how to get the defense rolling. The only thing I hope for is if they do give him the job there, they give him 2 or 3 years to get this team back the way he wants to. Not a lot of like Cleveland coaches or whatever blowing guys out in like a year or two. You got to have a guy and let him get his path. If it starts to go off track, then that's when you get rid of him. But I think you got to give him time if Bieniemy is the guy. And I don't know about Harbaugh. I mean, he already had his shot in the NFL. It didn't work out.
What do you mean it didn't work out?
Well, I mean, he left San Francisco.
Okay, so did Nick Saban left Miami.
He didn't do well in Michigan. That kind of soured out. And who knows?
NFL and college are completely different.
Right.
The thing with Harbaugh in Michigan, he has some. Last few years he's had top 5 classes and it hasn't produced. NFL
a lot of college coaches, though, if you look at the guys that have made the jump to the NFL, it really hasn't worked out in their favor. And there's a couple of them that have. There's a couple of them. But I'm talking about, like guys like Lou Holtz. And I'm going way back. Pete Saban didn't make it. A lot of guys, make the jump and they go back to college. It's more comfortable because it's a yes sir, no sir attitude when you're in college. And they're making money. Whatever.
You're completely off the base with that one, Mike. Jim Harbaugh, everybody says is more of an NFL coach. And NFL teams, there's been about 6 coaches, people already inquiring about Harbaugh's availability. So he is going to get a look in the NFL once they get rid of him in Michigan. I think he's just his style translates, especially his offensive philosophy translates better in the NFL than it does in college.
It's kind of the reverse. Is guys leave college to go to the NFL and screw up. He left the NFL to go to college to screw up.
No. He was a successful college coach at Stanford, but he also had Andrew Luck. So let's not forget that one.
Quarterbacks make coaches look great the way ping pong balls are great hockey GMs, right?
And that's really been his issue at Michigan, is because he hasn't found that quarterback to really turn that franchise, to turn the school around. I mean, they've had some top 3 or 4. I mean, they had McCaffrey's brother, they got Joe Milton. I mean, these high recruits that just haven't done shit. So I think Jim Harbaugh in the NFL is a real possibility.
From one dumpster fire to another. Washington 41, Cowboys 16. Washington goes to 4-7, Cowboys 3-8. What a couple awful. I'm not gonna say they're pretty much awful games too, because they were pretty much blowouts, but just a not really good football Thanksgiving. Washington defeats Dallas twice in the same year for the first time since 2012. They scored 20+ points in 5 straight for the first time since 17. 4-7 is in the NFC East is like, the one-eyed man in the land of the blind. And listen, I give Ron Rivera full credit. I mean, honestly, where would this team have been possibly if they didn't have Dwayne Haskins shoved into Ron Rivera's face? You got to use this kid. Because, I mean, Alex Smith has been very good since he's come back. I mean, he really has. I mean, especially comparatively to what's been there before. From a Dallas standpoint, listen, losses are good. I'm perfectly fine with this. Don't care. Go get a draft pick. For Washington, I mean, are they the team right now that you think finds a way out of this division to get to a playoff game?
Listen, this was just a beautiful loss for the Cowboys because it pretty much ensures that Washington does not pass them in a draft. It'd be very hard now for Washington to get worse than the Cowboys, especially with that too. So that's great for them. As far as Washington taking a hold of the division, why not? I mean, from all reports, you might be seeing Jalen Hurts take the reins from Philadelphia on Monday. I mean, so it's like I still think the Giants are the team that they should get a win against Cincinnati today. And I think the Giants are still the team with the defense, and I think they've already had 2 wins over Washington already. Yeah. So I think right now it's the Giants division. But you know what? It's just going to be a battle of I don't want to say anything derogatory, but it's just not good. So listen, this game showed some things about the Cowboys, showed some things about Washington, and Washington's trending in the right direction with a better scheme and a better coach, and just a better game plan without Dwayne Haskins. So you're looking at a team that's probably going to be good enough not to get a great draft pick, but they're not going to do anything.
Bad NFC East. Cowboys look terrible. Washington look better. Giants are on track, I think, to win the division.
Question for the Cowboys fans. Do you expect McCarthy to get a second chance in 21? What about Kellen Moore? Yeah, see, here's the thing, right? So we've had a lot of Wentz Dak discussions privately, especially this week, given what's going on in Philadelphia. I don't think you can hold anything against McCarthy for this year. And I also don't think, to be fair, Dak next year, if he struggles out of the gate, you're coming back off a horrible injury. So to be fair, if I didn't hold Wentz accountable for – nice cup, by the way, Tone. See the Star Wars cup there. If I didn't hold Wentz accountable for what he did the year after coming off the injury, I had to be the same for Dak. So I had to be consistent there. So as much of an anti-Dak guy as I am, I can't even blame the guy for anything that goes wrong next year. I really can't. Same thing for McCarthy. And this is the problem now, because now you're going to franchise the guy again or give him a deal unless they get in a position to take a quarterback. And I don't think it's going to happen, thanks to that Minnesota win especially. So they're really not in a good spot to be having throwaway years, but this is a throwaway year, and next year might kind of be a throwaway year too. And that's the bad part, because I don't think that the roster is set up for long-term success, especially in a decreasing cap environment with a running back who has deteriorated. I'm not going to blame him entirely, but when you're getting paid $100 million, you should produce behind any offensive line, not just the best, not just one of the top 5 in football. And that was my concern with what's your marginal benefit of taking Zeke versus a guy like Derrick Henry in round 2, because you're behind that same offensive line. What are you bringing to the table that somebody else doesn't bring to the table in that situation? Remember, McFadden 1,000 yards a year before Zeke was drafted. McFadden stinks. So I think it's a lot of status quo in Dallas. Nobody gets fired, maybe on the defensive side of the ball, because Nolan's D has not panned out at all prior to Dak's injury, when they were scoring points like wildfire but couldn't stop anything. So I don't know. I don't think there's going to be a lot of coaching changes on the offensive side of the ball or a head coach for Dallas next year. Defense, maybe.
Listen, Mike McCarthy's been an absolute embarrassment in Dallas. This has been an extremely tough season without a full training camp, without implementing, then you add in the injuries, and it's just been a bad season altogether. But when you look at it, though, Mike McCarthy has no accountability for his actions. If you watch the game on Thursday with the 2 4th down plays, that's just horrible. That's just horrible. That's a McCarthy call. That's not a Kellen Moore call. All right. I think this year was almost like a test run for McCarthy through the eyes of Jerry Jones and everything like that. And I think if they're smart, they get rid of him. They cut bait as soon as possible, because he is not going to do anything except make bigger and bigger mistakes when the games are more important. He's making bad mistakes right now with bad play calls, bad mistakes all season long. when the games don't mean anything. If he's going to get in a situation when Dak comes back healthy, the offensive line gets back healthy, everything like that, you gotta see what you have, and you have to realize that this isn't the guy that's going to get the job done. As far as Kellen Moore, if they do make a coaching change, Kellen Moore has been a great young coordinator. I liked what he's done there. You could tell when Garrett handcuffed him a little bit, but when you're talking about coaching change, you might be bringing in somebody, like a Eric Bieniemy or whoever that, they might want to have a different offensive philosophy. It's just a horrible situation. When you talk about Mike Nolan, they didn't have a chance to implement their defense and get these guys comfortable. But at the same time, you don't have the parts there. He's playing, Lawrence straight up. He's playing great. Like it's just not what they need. So when you're looking at that, and then when you look back at the history of Mike Nolan, the last time he was a defense coordinator, he had the last ranked defense in the league and a second ranked defense in the league, worst pass defense in the league. So what on his resume is all of a sudden now he's going to turn it around? No, he's proven in this day and age of the NFL where you have to play defense a little bit different. You can't, there's no holding as far as on it. The cornerbacks, less contact, blah, blah, blah. Some of them schemes aren't as relevant. So he is definitely they need to change. I think let's just cut bait, give whoever comes in a full training camp and take it from there.
The injuries hurt the Cowboys. McCarthy's bad. You're going to have to eventually get rid of him.
Ryan Leach.
I blame Ryan Havermel for giving us some false hope.
Yeah, that's true.
We love McCarthy and everything like that. He looks a lot different now.
Oh, he did call him a great hire. I have to call him out on that. Ryan Leach 6-10 was a division right now, so probably the Giants. If the Giants tie Washington, Giants do win the division. They should get a win today. We'll talk about that. Don't pay running backs. Drew Tramble speaking to the choir because. Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Total disaster. Michael Burrow, you think an NFC East team tries to trade for Darnold when the Jets grab Lawrence? So no, I don't think that happens. I think Washington's still in the market for a long-term starter, but I don't think it's going to be Darnold. Honestly, who might be a really good fit for Darnold? The Niners, because I think they're moving on from Jimmy. I could see that.
There have been whispers to Darnold to San Francisco. That
I think could make some sense. There aren't too many teams though that are. I mean. It's the same usual suspects, right? So it's the Niners who have no tie to Jimmy. I mean, they can move on from Jimmy when they want to. Well, there's some tie there.
The quarterback. Sorry, Brian. Per Adam Schefter, Julio Jones is out today.
Yep, he is out today. Yeah, that screws both my fantasy teams. I think it could happen in Indianapolis possibly, depending on what they do. It's kind of like musical chairs, right? There aren't that many spots anymore. That's why a guy like Jameis Winston was a backup in New Orleans. That's why a guy like Cam Newton could only get a minimum deal in New England. There's too many guys for too few spots. And I'm not down on Darnold. I think Darnold was dropped into a bad situation that got progressively worse. So I don't necessarily think that he's not exactly Josh Rosen in the way that, hold a team accountable because they screwed you, but it was a good situation. At least he was given some opportunity. I think he'd be fine in the right situation. San Fran's not a bad situation to go into.
Jacksonville.
Depends. I think
they're too high.
They get Fields. They get Fields if they don't get Trevor.
Yeah, they're going to be drafted nice and high. So I can't see that. And as far as Washington trading for Darnold, I don't see that either because I think Washington's picks are going to be just as high enough where they're not going to want to give up even a second round for Darnold.
But don't you think, though? I mean, they're going to get a pick based on winning a division if they do. So it is going to drop significantly from where their record would indicate.
I don't think they win the division. Though. That's what I'm saying. I said that earlier. I don't think they win the division. I think it'll be a 10-12 pick probably, maybe even less.
Mike likes Washington's front runner in the East. Their schedule's easier. Ryan Leach says possibly Jimmy G back to New England. Well,
when you're one of your worst teams in the league, as the Redskins are, even though they are playing a little bit better, your schedule's never easier.
Right. Last bit of note before we get into the games today. So the Niners we know there's been a homeless problem in San Francisco, but I didn't really think this was going to be it. Looking for a temporary home after the Santa Clara County bans contact sports for 3 weeks.
Anybody want to blame for the homeless problem, Brian?
No.
Okay.
This is interesting, though. The lead in the clubhouse apparently is Arizona. That right now, Arizona's offered. I think San Fran might take them up on it. That's kind of interesting. Joe Tadjern, who I know posts a lot in Outside the Box. Tua a bust? Of course not. Why would you say that? I know you're a Dolphins guy. Why would you say that?
Yeah, I have no idea. Listen, Tua's banged up. They pulled him last week because of injury. He took that shot to the hip as well as had an injured on his finger, and they put Fitzpatrick in. Listen, they have a long-term investment on him. They're going to be using kid gloves, and they're not going to be throwing him out there against the Jets or whoever, So especially when you have somebody like Fitzpatrick that could take it in. And Fitzpatrick is going to go off today. Off. Devontae Parker is going to eat and eat and eat. Fitzpatrick is going to go off because I'm sure he's pissed off about the whole situation of being benched. So
interesting. Again, we're going to see maybe some and we talked about the COVID situation getting worse and worse. I mean, it seems like there's problems around the league. So it isn't so much. I mean, there's teams everywhere. The Baltimore's hit bad, Denver's hit bad. We'll talk about. So we'll see where that goes. Staying with the West real quick, best division in football, top to bottom, even the Niners. But if there's 3 teams here within a game of each other to win this thing, we're 10 games in with 6 to go. Let's kind of break this down. Who do you think wins this division? So the Rams and Seahawks are both at 7-3. They still play each other again. At first blush, I mean, they both don't really have difficult schedules. So the Seahawks have 3 NFC East games left. The Rams have 2 AFC East games left. Then the Cardinals are hanging around with 2 NFC East games, although they play the Rams twice. If they're going to jump them, they got to win them both.
This has to be Seattle, Philadelphia, New York Giants, New York Jets, Washington. I mean, if they don't go, what is that, 5-1 or whatever like that in the stretch, that's an issue, right? I mean, Philly 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and they got San Fran. They're at San Fran, who's beat up. So I mean, listen, they should go 5-1, 4-2 at the worst. That would be a win over Rams. I like the Rams actually, second in that, even though the Cardinals do play Philly and the Giants. But I think the Rams right now, defensively and offensively, are probably one of the most balanced teams. But I think Seattle is the team that wins the division with just that cakewalk of a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Seattle's got a lot of firepower, and that schedule doesn't show them any kind of blockades or anything coming. The Rams, they're balanced, but Seattle's got a benefit of the schedule, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you got the next 4 need to be wins for Seattle. They drop any of those, it's a serious problem in my personal. They got to win all those games. So if you get them to 11-3, you look at the Rams schedule. Can you find 4 games that are lock wins? No. The Jets are 1. New England should be 2. San Fran today should be 3. Nothing else I would say is a lock. So right now, I agree. I do think I lean Seattle, but I also think both of these 2 teams have a very good shot at getting wild cards. Right. I think 2 out of the 3 wild cards could easily come from the NFC West, with the third.
Oh, absolutely, it's a great division.
Yeah,
I mean,
the third coming from the South.
And really, listen, if San Francisco was healthy this year, they would be right there too. I mean, it's insane.
Drew likes Seattle. Joe, do the Finns still make the playoffs? I don't think the quarterback drop today hurts them this week. It depends how long Tua is out, but Fitzpatrick's fine. I think that they might not be able to catch Buffalo now. It's less of a chance, I think, although it's still open, but just a little bit less.
Their issue might not be Buffalo. It's that the Raiders are playing pretty well too. So it's going to be them and the Raiders battling as far as and the Browns. I think we talked about that a couple shows ago. But yeah, the Finns are going to be in it, man. I really like them this year. With Fitzpatrick or Tua, that defense is best in the league. I mean, hold on. We might have to backtrack what we were talking about earlier, Brian. Brian Flores, isn't he a Belichick boy?
He is.
So we got to give him. There's still a glimmer of hope for a savior of the Belichick tree for the Finn.
That's fair
for the Finns. So Flores has done a great job with the defense there, and as you've seen, man, a great defense could take a team to the playoffs. And I do like the Miami Dolphins to make it to the playoffs.
Mike, Miami.
Yeah, no, I agree. Everything Tony says. No sense repeating it. I agree with everything.
And then, Joe, we'll get to your questions as we get to the game towards the end of the show there. But we'll kick it off on this Sunday. The 6-4 Las Vegas Raiders visit the 3-7 Atlanta Falcons. The over/under 53.5. Raiders laying 3. Raiders 4-1 on the road, just 2-3 at home. Julio Jones is out. That's an update on that. So he is out. The Raiders have not won in Atlanta since week 3 of 1997. Should be a good day for Derek Carr. Falcons allowing the most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks this season, allowed a top 4 in 2 straight games. Atlanta is also averaging the second most passing yards, Vegas allowing the 5th most. Therefore, this should also be a good game for Matt Ryan. The over is 53.5. Tony, I know you love overs in this game, or overs, period. How do you like it in this game with these two defenses?
Oh, I like it a lot. This line jumped actually for, I think it was like 52. Now you have 53.5. Some books have 54. I mean, so you could see it's trending in the right direction. I got in at 52, luckily, earlier in the week. Derek Carr has been playing great ball. Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, who's have the most touchdowns he's had for the first season. I mean, for most touchdowns in the season so far, and there's still plenty of games to be played. They're doing very well. The defense
appreciate it, Joe. Thank you.
If they could get in a shootout with the Chiefs, and they battle them, I mean, they're definitely going to be able to get a shootout with the Atlanta Falcons. So I do like the over in this one. The thing that you have to worry about with the Falcons is if they have a tendency to just kind of not show up at times. Without Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley should have a big day. I jumped on his over of 73.5 yards earlier this morning. Like 4 a.m. I walked in from the poker table and hit the sports book. So, we're doing some big things with that. So I love Ridley today. Also, fantasy sleeper Brian Hill with no Todd Gurley. I mean, he's going to get enough work to be relevant, especially if you're got somebody, a Mark Ingram you lost, or you're afraid to play a James Conner or something like that. So he could be definitely a factor with Gurley out. So I think you're going to get enough points. Raiders should win this game. I'll lay the 3, take the over. But I think you're going to see some big plays. Calvin Ridley, look for something. As I said, his name, you popped him up. Calvin Ridley going to explode. Yeah, you have to love that. So we're no Julio. Look for a big game. The one guy that I do not like is their tight end. Who's that? Hayden Hurst.
Yeah.
Without Julio Jones, he kind of disappears. So let's avoid him. But look for Darren Waller to have a big game against that Falcons secondary.
Yeah, Raiders have been playing well. I like the Raiders giving 3 on the road. Waller's been playing well. Jacobs is a beast. Carr's still playing well, especially with Julio Jones out. I mean, really, it's going to have a nice day. But I still think the Raiders can pull away in this game. It's definitely going to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, I think Derek Carr right now, we've said a lot about him and Gruden maybe not on the same page, no contractual obligations really, but, he's one of 3 quarterbacks this year to be top 5 in both completion percentage and passer rating along with Drew Brees and Russell Wilson. So, for them being 6-4, it ain't on the defense. I'll put it to you that way. I also lean Raiders here for a lot of the same reasons you said, Tony. I think without Julio Jones, it does make a big difference. If Atlanta can't go beat Taysom Hill, then I don't really necessarily know that they're going to go beat Derek Carr, even at home. It's a weird year. They've been better since Dan Quinn was fired. That addition by subtraction for sure. But I like the Raiders to cover the 3 here, so I would lay the money there. Maybe a little parlay with the over just for shits and giggles if you're in a state that allows that.
The only thing you might want to watch out for is the KC hangover. I mean, they did battle KC, and then they're on the road, a 1:00 game for a West Coast team. That's a little leery. That's why I would lean over if you're actually going to put some money on it.
The Los Angeles Chargers, fresh off their win over the New York Jets at 3-7, visit the 7-3 Buffalo Bills. Bills laying 4.5, over under 51.5. The top 2 receivers in the league in receptions, Keenan Allen and Stephon Diggs, battle in this one. Mike, concerning here for Buffalo, Josh Allen leads the team with 5 rushing touchdowns. Everybody else has 4 combined.
Well, Singletary hasn't gotten rolling. They've been trying to get him going at all, and Moss has been the guy that they're going to, even that he's been injury, and he was out 3 games with a toe injury. So I think the running aspect for Buffalo is fine right now until they can get their running back situation straightened out. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think the Chargers come in with Herbert, and I think he's been playing really well, throwing the ball to Keenan Allen, getting a little bit of chemistry there. Same thing with Stephon Diggs and Allen. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I lean towards the Chargers a little bit just because I think that they can beat Buffalo. Buffalo can be beat. I think it's one of those games, even though they're coming east to a Buffalo team who's going to be home, fired up, giving a little bit. Actually, I'll take the Chargers with the 5.5. It's going to be a close game. I think the Chargers can pull it out, but if not, I think that 4.5 is a little bit of a cushion.
I like Buffalo in this matchup. This is actually one of the games that I'm really interested in watching. I mean, you listen, the Chargers get Austin Eckler back, who should be another dynamic aspect of their offense. Keenan Allen to Justin Herbert has been a godsend for fantasy players. He's looking at him. Mike Williams has been pretty productive. So the Chargers offense, which coming into the season, if you don't remember, it had Tyrod Taylor and everybody was like, oh my God, this offense is going to be horrible. Is actually, Herbert's put in some life to it. But at the end of the day, Buffalo, if there's questions about the I'm just reading the chart. At the end of the day, Buffalo is just a better team. They have a better defense. Josh Allen's going to make a little bit more plays. Their running game is fine, guys. I mean, just because they don't have a bell cow like Thurman Thomas or somebody back there, I don't think that's an issue. I mean, Josh Allen's a football player, so he's going to run. He's a big guy. Zach Moss has been okay. So Singletary is not what they do. John Brown, though, exactly. But this is the thing. Cole Beasley is going to have a field day today. Beasley is one of the most underrated receivers there is, especially now with Josh Allen throwing them to him. So he's going to have a big game. Look for Diggs to open up top, and it's going to be a fun game. This is one of the most exciting games that I'm interested in seeing today, just because I think it's going to be a great one.
It's kind of interesting to me. So the Chargers have the lowest blitz percentage this year. They're only blitzing on 15.2% of their plays. That's kind of interesting. I didn't really, without knowing, I wouldn't have guessed that if I didn't see it. What may help the Buffalo running game is that the Chargers have let a top 15 back in 8 straight games. Zach Moss has 10 plus fantasy points 3 of his last 4. So Moss could be a guy if you're looking for a guy to start. Singletary hasn't been good, and I think that's leaning itself more and more to them relying on Moss, and maybe they're going to just eventually rip the Band-Aid and just do it and go. Sean McDermott is 3-0. He's one of 4 active head coaches not to lose following a bye in their career, though the Chargers have won 4 straight against the Bills. I think that, listen, this isn't a game that the Bills need to blow them out, but this is a game you have to win. You got to win. You got to win against teams with losing records in this time of year. If you expect to make a run into the playoffs and a push into the playoffs, you don't want these games costing you home games later when it's completely within your control. So I will take the Bills. 4.5's like,
lay it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't love it though. I don't feel good about it because I can see it being like a field goal game or something weird like that, but I'll go there. Drew Trammell does want the Chargers to tank. He's in the same boat as me. And then I'm going to pose this question. We haven't gotten to Tampa Bay, who's playing Kansas City, but Herbert or Brady, who do you start and why? And for me, I don't even think it's that close. I think it's Justin Herbert.
It isn't close.
Yeah, I mean, they've been throwing the ball a ton, so the yardage is there. And we're going to talk about some stats on Brady, which are alarming as far as how his deep ball is non-existent. I mean, he's lost a lot off of that. For me, I'm starting Herbert.
3 years ago,
I'm starting Mike Williams with confidence today.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, going into the game, the KC Tampa Bay, will break this down a little bit, but the best opportunity for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win that game is not to throw the ball 400 times. You don't want Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes to get into a shootout, because that's not going to end well for the Bucs. So if they're smart, they run a 2 tight end set, they pound the ball with Ronald Jones, they pound the ball with Leonard Fournette, they open up underneath, and that's how they do it. Because if anything, the Raiders kind of showed how they could do it. Keep with them a little bit. I don't know if Brady has the arm and could do it. So I'm taking Herbert, and against it's a tough matchup, but philosophy-wise, if Brady goes out there and throws the ball 45 times, it's going to be a bad day for the Buccaneers.
Yeah,
and your fantasy team.
That's very true. New York Giants take a 3-7 record into Cincinnati, 2-7-1, laying 6 over under 44. Burrow will miss the rest of the season, potentially part of next season. That knee injury was very, very significant. There was some talk even, I saw some of the pundits talk about maybe they should just sit him next year, not even risk anything. I don't necessarily know about that. We'll see where he is in his development. But remembering, it probably wasn't around, it was probably around this time in the schedule that Carson Wentz had the injury in that Rams game. And then obviously the Eagles want to win the Super Bowl that year, but Wentz still hasn't really recovered from what we saw in what could have been an MVP year in 2017. Giants 0-5 outside the division. They've had a lead of 10-plus points each of the last 6. They've only won 3. Tony, I guess this is your default pick to come out of the East, so sell me on it.
Well, listen, first of all, anytime the Giants are a 6-point favorite on the road as a 3-7 team, I mean, there's issues there. But you know what? Wayne Gallman has been kind of productive in that backfield. Danny Dimes has been able to make a play here or there. And I think that's pretty much what it is. I would never lay 6 on the road. So, I'm not touching this game. But, Cincinnati has some issues as well, injury-wise. No Joe Mixon. Gio Bernard is in the concussion protocol this week, and they're starting a backup quarterback that, hasn't. I don't even think he's ever played in the NFL. So I'll take the Giants. Their defense has been solid. Their offense has been just good enough, and they've played. I've said it every time. They play hard every week. I think they've covered their biggest blowout was like a 10-point loss in week 1. So they're going to play hard every week, and I think this is a game. If they're focused, and you got to give Joe Judge some credit there, who was also from Belichick, right? Joe Judge, Belichick guy.
Yeah. So
listen, the Belichick tree.
I see what you're doing there.
Well, no, but this just popped in my head because.
I hear it. We don't really think about these guys because they really haven't had a whole lot of track record to base it on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So these Belichick guys, like the Charlie Weiss and these guys, them leaves fell off the tree and shriveled up, and they've been complete bust. Patricia, all that ilk. But Flores, Joe Judge, their teams are showing some fight. They're showing some heart. So we'll give them credit. And Giants win this game. Danny Dimes makes enough plays to take the win. I'm not laying the 6. I mean, if you have to, I wouldn't take Cincinnati with 6 either. I'd just avoid this game completely.
Yeah, I like the Giants in this game. 6 is a lot of points for a bad team on the road, but the Giants have played a little bit better. I think they still have a shot to win the division, and Cincinnati's starting Finley today. That's going to be a struggle for them today, so I'll take the Giants.
Well, I mean, look, they're banged up, right? So no Mixon again. Bernard's going to start. I mean, both of these teams have their issues offensively with playmakers. So both teams with their backup running backs. I can't really say in too many games that the Giants have the clear quarterback advantage. They clearly do in this one. So I'm going to say the Giants win the game. Could they cover 6? Sure, but I don't want to put some money in line to find out. That's kind of my take on this. Daniel Jones, with the longest streak of his career, has 0 giveaways in 2 consecutive games. Good job, Danny Dimes. Good job. Giants, one of 3 teams averaging 20 points per game or less this year, joining the Bears and Jets. Giants win. Don't really want to touch the game, though. I just think the quarterbacks are the main reason why. Drew Trammell with the list: Charlie Weiss, Romeo Crennel, Matt Patricia, Bill O'Brien.
The list is bigger than that.
Yeah. They haven't. Maybe it's just Bill. Have we considered that maybe it's just this is how Bill does things, or maybe just Bill had a really good quarterback for 20 years? How about that?
Well, but listen, you got to give Flores and Joe Judge credit because they've been doing a solid job since they've been there. So maybe there's some new sprouts or growing in that tree, that Belichick tree. Maybe give him hope.
A late bloomer.
Yeah, he's going to embarrass himself.
This, I think, is clearly the game to watch at 1:00. So the Tennessee Titans at 7-3 against the Colts, also 7-3. Colts laying 3 over under 51.5. Winner of this game comes out with the lead in the AFC South. These 2 teams played on Thursday and a couple weeks ago where the Colts took it to the Titans. I lost money on that game. F me. Rivers is on pace to be the first quarterback to start 16 games and have 15 or fewer sacks since Peyton Manning in 2009. So I'll tell you what. We talk a lot about how important offensive lines are, okay? I know Drew's going to, put on the sad face and agree with me. Phillip Rivers stinks, okay? But he is being held upright by this great offensive line they built in Indianapolis, led by Quentin Nelson. And that's a big reason why these Colts have 7 wins right now, is because not only they run the ball effectively, but that offensive line is giving a guy who can't trying to throw the ball. And that's the formula. The Colts have such a great roster that you got to wonder where this is in the future with how the quarterbacks are going to turn out. But you got to love what this team has done in the draft with trades. Mike, I mean, we've talked about how much we love what the Colts do, and they're 7-3 here with a stiff at quarterback.
Yeah, and I think they're they're top 2 or top 3 run defense in the league, and they're going to have their hands full today with a lot of Derrick Henry running at them. The Titans need this game, I think, a little bit more than the Colts do, though, because the Titans have gone into a little bit of they won the last game by a big run by Henry, but I think they just, for a confidence standpoint, to beat a team like this and get the hold of the division, I think Tennessee really needs the game a little bit more. Unfortunately, I think I am taking the Colts as well. Saying that, I think the Colts, like you said, Brian, they're doing it with Rivers. I mean, they're keeping him upright, kind of like the Bucs have to do, keep their quarterback upright. The running game, the Hines has been good. They're starting to get T.Y. Hilton involved, get the tight end involved a little bit. Yeah, I think the Colts keep going forward. I think the Colts can win this game. I'll take the Colts to give it 3.
Listen, if we remember the last time these guys played, what was it, just 2 weeks ago on a Thursday night?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tennessee was manhandling them in the first half. And then the block punt, defensive score, everything like that came, and then Indianapolis broke the game open. No Jonathan Taylor today. I'm not sure if that really affects the running game because they've used Nyheim Hines pretty well and Wilkins and everything. The key here, listen, Indianapolis defense has been very, very good, right? Offensive line, very, very good. If Rivers doesn't implode, because we know these games are coming. As good as he's playing, he does get a little bit of a pension for throwing multiple pick sixes in one game. And he just has the implosion. No Rivers implosion today. Indianapolis sweeps Tennessee, takes a hold of the division.
I remember that game. I thought the Titans would win. The Colts had just been coming off some weird lines. I mean, the win last week over Green Bay, I think, is really big for them. I guess Mike will be back. That's a very good Green Bay team. They're getting the Titans here in a spot where, again, if the Colts intend to go somewhere in the playoffs, to sweep the Titans and hold that tiebreaker would be massive. So I'm not going to go on the record and say this is like a playoff game by any stretch, but it has a lot to do with how this is going to pan out. The home games still matter. I know people are like, there's no crowd. It's not as important. Maybe not. But when you're not traveling, it is easier. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if there's not a raucous crowd. Doesn't matter. Tennessee last week was down to Baltimore. Give them credit. They came back. But I didn't really I go back and forth with this. You know what? Give me Tennessee with the points. I think it's a field goal game regardless, and I'll err towards the fact that maybe Tennessee can win it.
Yeah, listen, this is going to be a tough game. It's going to be a good game. If one team blows out the other team, I'd be really shocked. If the Indianapolis Colts actually do sweep the Tennessee Titans, it's huge for that division. I mean, top 2 teams. I mean, look at the hole the Buccaneers are in right now against Saints because they lost to the Saints twice. Even though they have Taysom Hill quarterback, whatever you want to think about him, that's tough to overcome when you lose that tiebreaker already. I think the Colts are going to be, able to do just enough to pull this out. But listen, this is a coin flip game. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it's
definitely the highlight of the 1 o'clock.
This is look. If you're going to watch one game, if you're not going to red zone like me, and you're going to just put your eyes on one game, this is the game because I think this is the one, obviously, the most playoff implications within the division, and 2 teams that really don't practically like each other. So the Colts though have won 20 of their last 24 against the Titans. So if you want to go by a trend, I guess that's a trend that you can look at. A game that should be far less competitive, the 7-3 Cleveland Browns, my survivor pick this week, at the 1-9 Jacksonville Jaguars. Browns laying a touchdown over under 48.5. Cleveland allowing 13.3 points per game since week 8. Baker Mayfield, squadouche, 0 touchdown passes in 3 straight games. And for Jacksonville, Mike Glennon gets the start. How confidence inspiring is that?
The longest neck in the NFL besides Merton Hanks. I don't know if you guys remember Merton Hanks, but listen, the Baker Mayfield no touchdown thing, if you're the Browns, that's beautiful. You know why? Because they're running the ball. They're running the ball with Nick Chubb. They're running the ball with Kareem Hunt. You're not forcing the ball. Baker Mayfield forced the ball downfield. Hopefully that's how you should be doing it. And as you could see, they beat the Eagles team last week that just really doesn't have much of a fight in them, at times. So it's just Baker Mayfield not making mistakes is the key to Cleveland Browns. As your survivor pick, taking Cleveland on, just say this out loud in your head: Cleveland Browns on the road for your survivor with Baker Mayfield. That does not sit right in any way, shape, or form. I mean, you know what? I don't know if it's a bad pick at all. So there's no way that Cleveland should lose this game to a team that's trying to tank with Mike Glenn at quarterback. So I'm going to sit there and say that, hey, Cleveland lay the points. Nick Chubb runs wild. His over-under today was 87.5. He should have at halftime.
Yeah, Mike Glenn stinks coming from saw him with the Bucs. I mean, he'll do a little bit with Jacksonville today. He'll move the ball, but in the sense of trying to win this game, I don't think it's going to happen. I think Cleveland's got too much of a pass rush and too much of a defense for him to handle today. I think Cleveland wins this game pulling away. -7, lay it, even though they're in Jacksonville. I don't think there's any way Jacksonville wins this game.
Mike Glennon.
Stealing money, by the way.
Why is he stealing money? He's playing. How's he stealing money? I'm
saying he went to the Bears. He went to all these teams and got big contracts as a backup. I mean, good for him. It's the way it's done. So,
hey, he's going to be out there playing quarterback, unlike anybody from the Denver Broncos. You got to give him credit. Drew asked if Baker Mayfield is a bust for us. Listen, right now I'm going to say no. He's not the bust yet because he's been in multiple systems. He's doing what the coaching staff's asking for him. In a couple of years, if he's just a complete game manager, reminding me a little bit of Trent Dilfer or them guys, then yeah, that would be a bust of a number 1 pick. But let's see how he develops. Because right now he's doing what the coaching staff asks him, and I think that's progress for a guy who you don't.
Joe Sojourner, I was just surprised that he was playing.
Yeah.
Baker's. I mean, I don't know. But it's just. We had these expectations for quarterbacks, but the guy's going 1 overall. The problem, though, is it's not as if Darnold's really panned out, and it wasn't that Josh Allen was supposed to go that high. Like the discussion was around Darnold. So it's hard to say, like,
bad situations. When teams go when these guys go get drafted so high, I mean, they get in some really bad situations. And for whatever you think about Baker Mayfield, I was not high on him coming out of Oklahoma. For a number of reasons. But you know what? This was his 3rd offensive coordinator. So and Stefanski's getting him to play within himself a little bit. So let's listen. Darnold's not a bust at this point. Baker's not a bust at this point. I'm not even going to say like Josh Rosen. I don't even think he's going to be a bust at this point. These guys are still a few years into the league and see what happens to them. I mean, we were writing off Ryan Tannehill. Now he's quarterback in the playoff teams.
Yeah, so, that's very, very true. We absolutely were.
And look at the NFL. Look at a quarterback position around the NFL. There's been pretty bad situations out there, as you see in Cincinnati, as you see in Jacksonville, as you see around the league. So, I mean, it could be much worse.
No, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Where was I here? Jaguars have allowed 24-plus points in 9 straight games, longest streak in team history. Give me the Browns. I'm laying the 7. And I'm picking them in Survivor. It doesn't work, but I feel good about that. A couple of 4-win teams here. Carolina takes 4-7 into Minnesota, 4-6, who lost to the Cowboys last week. How embarrassing is that? They are laying 3 in this game. The over-under is 50. Minnesota's beaten the Carolina Panthers 2 out of the last 3. Quarterbacks who have started for the Vikings since the millennium are 0-3 in revenge starts against the Vikings. Bridgewater counts there. Mike, we're not going to see any Christian McCaffrey today, but we're going to see Bridgewater again. Listen, the story, like, it's like nobody's really talking about right now. It's Justin Jefferson, because he is the best receiver on that team, especially with no Thielen out, but he's the best receiver on that team.
Oh, without Thielen. Don't disrespect Adam Thielen.
But above that, if you look at some of these advanced stats, I mean, literally, like, his numbers are significantly better than Adam Thielen's.
Well, you might want to Twitter because
you got to look at the football player. Adam Thielen has one of the best hands in the NFL, one of the best running routes. He just balled the hell out the other day. He had a phenomenal catch. I mean, Jefferson's had some big games, and he's been a nice surprise. And, it's good to say, look, tell Eagles fans, hey, look what Jefferson is doing against Eagles. And I'm sure that's a lot of precipitous of that. But let's pump the brakes a little bit. But I do love Jefferson over 73.5 yards today. He, that's his over-under for yards. So I think he's going to have a big game. And then you're also looking at the over-under 50. This game is not going to feature much defense. I can't see that at all. The secondary for Minnesota still has a ton of problems. Teddy Bridgewater is going to be looking to throw the ball. Expect Robbie Anderson to hit a deep one today. He's a burner. The little question mark here is the Mike Davis. No Christian McCaffrey. Mike Davis is a little slowed up a little bit, but you know what? The other side of the ball, you have Dalvin Cook, and he's been the best running back in the NFL this year. And that, I'm just quoting Derrick Henry on that. And I'll take Minnesota. I'll lay the 3 over under 50.
Yeah, a lot of wideouts in this game, and I think I remember seeing on Twitter either today or I think it was today. Adam Thielen had a negative test either yesterday or today, so there's a chance he could be active today. I don't know if
he's inactive. There's
okay.
no chance he's inactive.
Okay, so anyway, but they have a lot of receivers going today, and I think it's going to be a shootout. I like the over in this game. When it comes to the actual game itself, I'll take Minnesota at home, given 3. I think they've been on a little bit of a run, so I think they keep it going.
This is a game Minnesota should win. Although having said that, I thought last week was a game Minnesota should win, so maybe I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Again, I think Minnesota can win this game. It's going to be a big dose of Dalvin Cook, as always. They're going to miss Thielen, but I think Jefferson's up to task. We're going to see what he does against number 1 corners. He hasn't really had hasn't had the opportunity to have much of that with Thielen on the field, but his advanced stats do look very good. Minnesota, though, on the other side of the ball, allowing the 4th most points per game to wide receivers in fantasy. Look for a guy like Curtis Samuel have a big game. He has 17-plus fantasy points in 4 of his last 5. Give me the Vikings. Give me the 3. This line is too low. Tony, you got to tell me about this. Well, before we do that, a question just came in. How do you feel about Matt Rule? They've been better than I thought they were going to be. I saw a 1-win team. So
they have a nice young defensive core. I mean, that's one of the things that you have to look at. From the get go, their young defensive core has played as well or better than you'd expect some rookie defenders to play. So you have to be confident in that. Teddy Bridgewater has a nice control of that team. Even P.J. Walker, when he came in there, P.J. Walker has done some good things when he's got there. Hasn't shown, complete. The offensive scheme looks good. Like you said, they're getting Curtis Samuel involved. Even when you lose Christian McCaffrey, that's a huge loss. You know what I'm saying? And, they're still spreading the ball around. And I think Rule, even though I didn't like him at Temple, didn't really like him at Baylor, I thought it was a little bit of a weird hire. You have to give him credit. This franchise hasn't really fallen apart, and they've been fighting. So you have to feel a little bit promising.
Yeah, I think Matt Rule's done a good job with Carolina.
Can't complain too much about that when it's actually kind of working out for him. Last of the 1:00 games, which should be the laugher of the bunch, Miami Dolphins 6-4 at the 0-10 New York Jets. Dolphins laying 7 over under 45. Tua is out. Fitzpatrick gets the start. The Dolphins have.
Did you just skip the Arizona game?
I'm sorry?
Did you skip the Arizona game?
Oh, I did skip the Arizona game. We were talking
about it, and then you.
I did. Yeah, no, I went to a comment. My apologies. Sorry. Backtrack. Arizona 6-4, New England 4-6. Cardinals laying just 1 over under 50.5. New England scoring less than 21 points per game. That is the least since the year 2000. 4 of their 6 losses this year have come by 1 possession. Tony, why is this -1?
I haven't really checked the money's trends on this game, but I think that the questionable shoulder of Kyler Murray is kind of controlling this line a little bit. Defensively, Arizona, I don't believe is that well suited to stop a running game. And I think that what you've seen from the power running game from, Damian Harris and Cam and, these guys, I think that you're looking at, that's what the formula for New England is kind of laid out. I'm interested to see what New England defense shows up and if Kyler Murray can exploit that secondary that was really beat up against, the New York Jets, but then, they kind of got it back around, against the Ravens in the damn monsoon, and then last week Deshaun Watson lit them up. So I have to say that unless there's a downpour or something in Foxborough that I'm not aware of, I haven't checked the weather. Mike, you're normally on the weather. What we guys' weather?
No, we're good. There's no rain in forecast for any games today. So.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a game that screams trap or something. I mean, it definitely makes you raise the eyebrows. If I was betting this, I'm taking Arizona. I offensively just too much, and I can't take Cam Newton seriously.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the New England offense with Cam Newton stinks, and I've been on record saying that. I think that's easy. But the defense, it is a pretty good force, a pretty good test for Murray with that shoulder. But again, if I was taking a game too, I'd probably take Arizona. That line does seem a little fishy, but I think Arizona is a better team here going into New England.
Well, here's what's interesting, and I think this bodes well for a guy like Christian Kirk. So Stephon Gilmore has allowed 100-plus receiving yards in coverage one time in his career, Week 17 of 2019 against Devontae Parker. So what does that mean for Hopkins? Hopkins has alternated 100-yard receiving games each week this season. He had less than 100 yards last week, so his trend is he has it this week, but it's up against a guy who hasn't let it up in a very long time. That could be the difference, and maybe that's why. If they can't get their passing game going, and it's going to make them rely more on the run with whether that's Edmonds, Drake, or Kyler for that matter, that's fair. They've allowed 28-plus points in 4 straight games. Cam's gotten a little bit better here. Last 2 games, his pass rating is above 100. It was 78 in the first 7 games. I don't. The -1 it feels like a total trap.
Oh, it pretty much is. I mean, when you're looking at it like that, I mean, you're talking about, lines that really don't make sense but you have to understand Arizona and a guy like Kyler Murray is one of the most hyped players that you have, as far as, what he's doing fantasy perspective. So that always kind of inflates a little bit. Maybe it's the fact that Larry Fitzgerald is out, man. Maybe he's moving along. Well, listen, if I ever see a receiver move a betting line, I'd be extremely surprised. But look for Andy Isabella underneath. You mentioned Christian Kirk. Andy Isabella is going to, really do well today, I think. Listen, this by no means is 6-4 versus 4-6, but I think when you're looking at playmakers, I think Kyler Murray is going to make 1 or 2 more plays than Cam Newton. One thing you might want to look at though is I don't think they're going to be having too many design runs as they normally do for Kyler Murray trying to protect that shoulder. So I think his over-under running the ball is 53. I don't like betting unders, but you know what? This might be one that you want to look at, under 53 for Kyler Murray rushing.
I'm going to pick Arizona to win. The line makes me want to stay as far away from it as possible. There's something not right here.
Yeah, absolutely. This isn't a game you bet. Not at all.
All right, now, last 1 p.m. game. Miami Dolphins 6-4, 0-10. Jets, 0 for the year. Dolphins laying 7, over-under is 45. Tua is out for the game. Fitzpatrick will start. They've beaten the Jets 5 of the last 6, including a 24-0 win in Miami earlier this year. The New York Jets are the 4th team in the last 5 years to start 0-10. All 3 of those teams got the number 1 pick. Draw your own conclusions. This is just bad. But the Jets covered last week, so without Tua, with Fitzpatrick in, Tony, I think you said you liked the 7.
What, me getting 7 or giving 7?
Giving. I thought you said that Fitzpatrick was going to feast today. I believe.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, Darnold might be out there hitting Jamison Crowder all over the field as well. I mean, they have no running game as far as the Jets are concerned. Yeah, I think this is a game that Fitzpatrick is going to go out there and prove a point. But you know what? As we've seen with the Fitzmagic in the past, that disappears very quickly sometimes. I'll take Fitzpatrick. And it's, you know what? We have fun with Fitzpatrick and everything like that. But at the same time, this game is about the defense. It's about the Miami defense. It's still a division game. It's still a familiar rivalry. You never know what happens. If I'm betting this game, which I'm not, I would take the Dolphins minus the 7. But at the same time, it's more credit to their defense. But I do think that Fitzpatrick will be going deep. We'll be looking to make some plays, and we'll be trying to prove a point. I think, he was hurt when he lost his team, and I think, he kind of realizes that this is another opportunity to go out there and prove people what he's going to do. So I'll take the Dolphins confidently in the 7.
Though they covered last week against the Chargers, the Jets seem like they can't get out of their own way. And even though the Darnold's there, he hasn't played in forever. So I think the Dolphins, with the 7, isn't easy if you're going to take this game today. I don't have any confidence that. I mean, even though there's a trend that interdivisional home dogs do cover a lot of the time, but I just think the Dolphins are a hell of a lot better team than the Jets. Jets are just a bad team right now. And even though they're on the road, they sweep the series. I think the Dolphins win by more than 7.
The Jets aren't going to win this game. The Dolphins should cover the 7. The only concern that you have is something backdoor, like some kind of garbage play, fourth quarter, they get to within 6 or some nonsense, that sort of thing.
Yeah, they're up 7. Miami takes a safety out the end zone, so they don't have, the clock out.
Yeah, like the Dolphins. Like the Dolphins go for 2 for some reason and miss it. The Jets only lose by, I don't know, like just some kind of like nonsense play. But this is a game, again, Miami needs to get back on their winning ways after last week in Denver. This is a good spot to do it in. This is basically a bye week in my opinion. So I'm going to take the Dolphins. I'll lay the 7. I'm not really too concerned, but I guess if you're going to be concerned, that's why you'd be concerned. All right. So this is an interesting game. The New Orleans Saints are 8-2. The Denver Broncos are 4-6. The Saints are laying 15.5. The over-under is just 36. Why? Because Denver has all roster quarterbacks unavailable due to COVID-19 rules. I think Jeff Driscoll had it. Everybody else was a close contact. They don't have a quarterback. They're starting wide receiver Kendall Hinton at quarterback today. This is going to be fascinating to watch because I feel as though we're going to be watching like 1955 NFL. We're going to be running the ball a lot on both sides of the ball because let's remember Taysom Hill is the quarterback for the Saints. This is just I am so full of intrigue on this game because it's just like it's the train wreck you can't turn away from. That's kind of what I'm expecting here. Mike, just what's your read here? I mean,
it's going to be bad.
15.5 is a lot of points, and the over/under is 36. So, what are they calling for here? A 20, like a 30-10-ish game?
I guess the only thing you can hope for is them getting the field goal range. I mean, because I don't expect Henson to do that much at all. I mean, he's last resort, under the emergency, under the gun here. I don't know what to even expect. 15.5 is a lot of points, but I guess if I had to take this game at all, I'd probably take New Orleans because I don't think offensively this team's going to move the ball at all. I mean, maybe a field goal or two, and the other field goal could be on a turnover or something. But I mean, I don't even know what to expect on Henson to do anything. I mean, that over/under tells you right there 36. They're not expecting a lot of times. Yeah, I mean, no, I think they're going to throw more than 10, but it's not going to be pretty. I think this is the walkover game for the Saints. The Broncos are just trying to put a guy on the field to kind of keep the game going and all. I don't think the Broncos have anything offensively going to go for this team.
Well, you look at this game right here. I think it kind of exposes a lot of things. First of all, with or without Henson, the quarterback, whatever, Drew Lock, that Saints defense is going to cause major problems for the Broncos. I mean, that's the thing when you're looking at, everybody was like, oh, the Taysom Hill start, blah, blah, blah. People are really not giving the Saints defense enough credit. They're going to shut down, whoever plays quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Are they going to throw the ball over 10 times? They might not, but this might be a laugher. It might be real quick. I think what this game does now is you really need to have a little bit better grasp if you're an organization, especially one in playoff contention, about having maybe an emergency quarterback somewhere stashed. I know they've had talks of that by other organizations in the past, but why Denver didn't? That's just a roster general manager error right there. And you're looking at it, you have to say, you have to plan for this kind of stuff in this day and age. I mean, you could pick up a number of players and put them in, the quarterback position, but for them to not have somebody ready or under contract, that's bad. Yeah. Chris Fallon brings up a good point. They actually tried to start 2 assistant coaches.
Should start Elway.
That would have been great. Yeah. But yeah, listen, lay the 15.5. take all your Broncos out of the lineup if you're playing fantasy. One league I'm forced to start Noah Fant, I believe. So, I have like, I don't know, 6 or 7 guys out for COVID. I just lost Mark Andrews. So, I'm playing Noah Fant in one league. If he gets 4 catches and 40 yards, I'll be ecstatic. So it's just a mess up there. I've heard some chirping about why are they forced to play and blah, blah, blah. Listen, just because they weren't prepared doesn't make it, make it anybody else's problem. So, strap them up and play. Interesting to see, though. I think the underlying thing here that people are, with this whole Broncos non-quarterback is the Taysom Hill. It's going to be interesting to see what they came out to do with Taysom Hill. Sean Payton came out and said he was throwing the ball all over the field to prove a point last game. So let's see if he kind of continues to do that.
This is, again, not to reiterate the point. I just feel this is going to be like one of those games where we're going to remember. Hey, remember when the Broncos had no quarterback? This game, look, this should be a full run game for the Broncos, right? Like, you don't want a converted receiver throwing the ball a lot if you intend to do anything. Saints have not allowed a 100-yard rusher in 48 straight games. It's the longest streak in the league since 1950. Melvin Gordon, bust, big money bust, fewer than 5 fantasy points, 2 of his last 3 games. Saints not allowed a top 20 running back in 6 straight. So I'll give it to you this way. You know what? Poll question. The Broncos score in this game?
Listen, Brian, the Broncos have experience of even winning a playoff game without a quarterback when they had Tim Tebow back there for a while. So, I mean, do they score? Yeah, I say they score. Why not?
I'm going to go look and see what their over-under is for points today, because I'm curious now. That line's
it's got to be like 10 or 13, somewhere around there.
Your team total?
Yeah.
Well, the over-under is 36.5, so you have to have 15.5 there, so you're looking 20. So they're expecting 20.
Total points by the Broncos the line is 9.5.
That's what I say. You have to expect them to have and New Orleans is what? What's their point total?
26.5.
26.5, so 9.5.
Where you get the over under.
Yep. So there you go. 26.5 minus 15.5. Yep. So you got the numbers,
That's the math.
I like the over for New Orleans.
I mean, the Saints may just try to run the ball a lot with. I mean, you might even be concerned about Kamara in this game only because he might not have any opportunity. They might just try to get a lead and hold it. What's the point?
They get a 14.
Well, you guys still see how they're playing defense.
Yeah.
Offense. I'm sorry. They're still playing offense. I mean, they're still going to have to, they're still going to have to play. It's not prime Drew Brees going into Denver.
No, I agree. Yeah, and this is a good question by Chris Fallon. They score more points all offense or defense. I mean,
statistically, you have to go with offense because
who throws more touchdowns? Does Taysom Hill throw a touchdown to the Denver defense? Because the Denver offense might not get one.
Yeah.
Oh boy, what a disaster! But I mean, there was, and we'll talk about the game in Baltimore. But there was no talk of canceling this game, and why would there be? Like, what the rules are.
Yeah, no, I've been hearing a lot of crying about it. I for whatever reason.
Mike, Mike, this is your divisional rival. You're looking up at him for a division title. How do you feel about this? Should the Saints be in a spot where they're going up against a team with a converted wide receiver or quarterback? Is that okay?
No, but in the same sense, the NFL wants to keep all the games going. They don't really want to cancel any games. There was actually some kind of memo I think they put out on different scenarios how there'd be canceled games, and this is not one of the scenarios. So it probably should be, but. What are you going to do? Now, I think the Saints are just going to run rampant today. But again, it could be a game that, like we said, it could be so bad offensively for Denver that they might go up 14 to Saints and just call the dogs off. I mean, who knows?
Sean Payton don't call the dogs off. Sean Payton don't call the dogs off. Come on.
No, I'm just saying, though. I mean, it might be so bad for Denver. They might not move the ball past the 50 that they might just say, you know what, let's just rest everybody. It'd be like a bye week. So who knows?
Who has more touchdown passes, Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill today?
Oh, Taysom Hill.
Who has more touchdown catches, the Broncos receivers or the Broncos DBs? I mean,
yeah,
they're fair questions. San Francisco 4-6 against the 7-3 Rams. Rams laying 6.5. The over/under is 44.5. The Rams have won 3 straight against the Rams, though they are just 1-12 with 9+ days of rest since 2014. They've lost the last 4 straight by 10 points. They've got some issues there injury wise. It is significant. Cooper Kupp, the best third down receiver in the league. He has produced a 128.8 passer rating when targeted on third down since being drafted in 2017, highest in the league with a minimum of 70 targets. The Rams are a peculiar team. They were far and away better than I gave them credit for. I didn't see 7 wins all year, and here they are, 7 wins through 10 games. Goff is 3-0 when the Rams allow a pressure rate less than 20%. They're 4-3 when the pressure is over that. Don't know if the Niners defense can produce that. Niners 22-8 with Jimmy, 5-23 with all other quarterbacks in that same time frame. So we bash on Jimmy a lot, but they win when Jimmy is playing. So, Tony, this is a game that, we talked about who wins the NFC West, and if the Rams intend to, you got to put this in the win column.
Yeah, this is a really interesting game for one of the reasons is that all of a sudden the 49ers are getting pretty healthy. They got Richard Sherman back. They got Raheem Mostert back. I mean, I don't believe it's going to be enough because they're just missing so much. And I think the Rams are one of the most complete teams, in the NFL, actually. I mean, defensively, offensively, you've seen it, against Tampa Bay this past week. You have to give Jared Goff a lot of credit. You have to give McVay a lot of credit as well because he's putting the scheme together that Goff can succeed in. All he does is hit the players like Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, as you mentioned, and allow them to break tackles. I think, they both are in the top, I think, 10 in the league in yards after catch after a missed tackle. So when you're looking at that kind of offense and trying to make it nice and simple, and you add in defensive studs like Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey to kind of, slow down the other team's offensive attack, I think that you're looking for a Rams team to pull out a win here. But I think you're going to see a little bit more fight in the 49ers today. But with them getting a little bit healthy, but without Kittles, without Garoppolo, I just don't see how they pull this game off. So, I mean, you're going to take the Rams. The 6.5 looks like a little bit of a trap game. Anything under 7, you kind of skeptical about it. But I'll take the Rams. I'll lay this 6.5. Right now, Jared Goff is playing good football. Funny thing is, I don't know if you guys follow Pro Football Weekly and their rating systems. Okay. Aaron Donald has not had a sack or a tackle in the last 2 games, and he's still the highest rated interior defender. So, I mean, that was something that kind of raised my eyebrows, as far as like the rating system. Like, how are you the most impactful defender when you haven't registered a stat in 2 weeks? So that's kind of funny. But other than that, you're looking at a Rams team that I think is playing some of the best football of the season right now.
Yeah, it's down to 5.5 now. Just shows you where the people are going to a little bit. Yeah, but no, I agree. I think the Rams are a balanced team, even though that 49ers are getting healthy. They're getting some things back. I still think the Rams are really playing well after the beginning of the year. Me and Brian thought they were going to be 4th in the division and in cap hell, but they've managed to put this team together in a way that they're really competitive right now, and they're really playing well. I mean, I think, even with the 5.5, I'll take the Rams and lay to 5.5.
It's only cap hell if you don't play well. They're big money, big ticket, like Jalen Ramsey, big ticket guy, Aaron Donald, big ticket guy, Jared Goff, big ticket guy. I mean, those big ticket guys are playing well, so it's not as bad as when you look at somebody like Ezekiel Elliott stealing money or Carson Wentz stealing money, or it's a whole different thing. Big dollars are putting up big stats.
Winning is the ultimate panacea, right? Everything looks a lot better when you're winning football games. That's the reality of it. The game of the afternoon, of at least the 4:00 games, 9-1 Chiefs against the 7-4 Buccaneers. Chiefs laying 3.5. The over under 56.5. I want to say that is the highest. I'm just looking real quick, cursory. Yes, it is the highest over under of the weekend. Yeah. Kansas City has allowed 20 points or less in the last 7 games. Michael, Tom Brady is 0-19 with 3 picks on deep passes of 20 plus or more yards in the air in his last 4. So we said on our Tuesday show that they are facing not necessarily a must-win game, but pretty damn close to it, because in 2 of the last 3, they've looked bad. this is not the team that you want to have a must-win game against in the Kansas City Chiefs, because there aren't too many games where the Bucs walk in and don't have the most talent on offense, but they clearly don't in this one. So what's your read? What's your expectation in a situation where the Chiefs look really good?
Yeah, and listen, and the Bucs haven't played up to their expectations. Brady's, in two of those games, he's played awful in the last couple minutes, which you think he wouldn't do that. But you know what? And I'm not trying to be a homer here. I'm just trying to look at the game objectively. I think that line tells you a little something. I know they're on the road, the Chiefs, and they're playing really well. I don't think Brady puts back-to-back bad games together like he's normally has. I think they're competitive in this game. I mean, I'm thinking they have a shot at winning this game. I think it's a must-win for them because they're chasing New Orleans, who pretty much has a bye week this week against Denver. So they got to try to keep pace with them if at all possible. I think I like Tampa Bay with the 3.5. I mean, I think the Bucs can have a shot at winning this game. It's going to be a tough one. They're going to have to keep up with a high-powered offense or slow down a high-powered offense, which I think the secondary is going to be, running rampant today with trying to catch up with Kelsey and all these guys today. But I think they can, keep it close, and I'll take the Bucs with 3.5. I think they can keep it close if anything. And listen, they have to have a shot at winning it. Brady, I don't think is going to have a terrible game back-to-back weeks.
Well, if Tampa Bay is not careful, they get boat raced in this game easily. We've already seen it. All right, they need to change their philosophy. They need to change it quick. Bringing in Antonio Brown, getting Chris Godwin back, getting Gronk, getting these guys. Tom Brady has too many toys in front of him, okay? Tom Brady can't go out there and try to throw the ball to beat Patrick Mahomes and his Kansas City. It's just not going to happen. They need to change their offensive philosophy. They need to go back to the two tight end set, how Brady ran it Brady ran the two tight end set in New England for a number of years, and utilized the underneath passing. He didn't go deep. There's a reason why Brady doesn't go deep, because he hasn't been able to go deep in a couple of years. It's just how it is. Trying to force the ball deep to Antonio Brown, trying to force the ball deep to Mike Evans. He's been inaccurate. So if they don't come to a philosophy of a different offense, pound the ball, pound the ball, pound the ball. Keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. Make the important plays. Make the smart plays. That's the thing that's been a little bit crazy for Tom Brady. When you look at that last interception he threw the other night, it wasn't a smart play. He threw the ball high. He threw it in double coverage to Cameron Brate, and it was picked off, and that was the end of that. So when you're talking about a Kansas City Chiefs teams, which no matter what they do, they're going to score points. The defense for Tampa Bay has been, before the last couple of weeks, it's greatly improved and was looking very good. They got lit up by New Orleans. Yes, they beat a Carolina team that is average offensively. It was a 17-7 game at halftime, but they threw, and Tampa Bay threw a couple meaningless touchdowns at the end there, to kind of do that gap, and they were aided by a freak run by Ronald Jones of 98 yards that you can't count on. It's been difficult for Brady to sustain drives. I think right now he's going out there, he's looking at Mike Evans, he's looking at Chris Godwin, he's looking at Antonio Brown. He's looking at Gronkowski. He's like, all right, I got to get these balls. Let's make the big play, blah, blah, blah. And this is not happening. And if you go into that mindset and that philosophy with Kansas City, it's going to be a long, long day. This was my preview. This was my Super Bowl picks. I believe it was Kansas City at Tampa Bay. I think that's what it was. Right now, listen, Tampa has the ability to win this ball game if they commit to the run. If they don't, and they try to get in a scoring contest with Kansas City, it's not going to work. You can't get a track meet with a cheetah, literally.
I just got an alert. DraftKings giving a boost of plus 300 on Tampa to win the game. Tells me that probably not going to win the game. I look at the listen, Mike. I don't dispute with you that Brady will play a better game. I just don't think it's going to matter. If this was a game against the Raiders, if this was a game against fill in the blank, maybe it does. This is the best team in football. So that defense needs to show up. And And I don't necessarily mean it needs to show up and be stifling. It needs to just provide some resistance. And there aren't that many teams that have been able to provide any resistance against the Chiefs offensively. So it's not even a matter of they have to go shut the Chiefs down. No. They have to just give their offense a chance to score some points and stay in this game. And I don't know that they're going to be able to do that. I like the Chiefs. I think the 3.5 is begging you to take Tampa. They're at home. I think the Chiefs beat them by 10. And I don't even think this is even a game. And that's not even a shot against the Bucs. That is completely... This is the Chiefs. Tom Brady's 4-0 in his career against the reigning Super Bowl champion. That's fine. This ain't his prime his career anymore. I'll go the Chiefs. I'll lay the 3.5. I might even do one of those things where you take them to -6.5 and get some plus money, because I really think that this is a game where, Tony, I agree. I think if the Chiefs win, they win it big. It ain't close. I don't see a close game here, and I don't think Tampa can. I don't think Tampa can hang with them. And honestly, it's. You look at the Oakland game last week and, they needed that last second comeback. That's fine, but they still got it. So, how you get maybe no style points, but you get there.
Oakland is a team that beat them already, and Oakland was able to put up some points against them, and I think if Tampa Bay tries to do that, they have to model their game against Oakland, as what Oakland did. But, if they can't stretch the field with Brady like that, it's going to be difficult. Ball control for Tampa Bay, and they need to keep this. Listen, the over/under this game is 56.5. If it gets to 56.5 or close to 56.5, you're probably looking at least a 10-point win for Kansas City.
Yeah, I agree. Here's the decision I want to ask you guys, since we're talking about this game. Due to the injury to Julio Jones and Hawkins having played on Thursday, I have a spot in my league that I have to fill. Would you fill the spot? And I'm already starting Ronald Jones. Would you fill the spot with Leonard Fournette or T.Y. Hilton?
T.Y. Hilton has had a little bit of life these last couple of weeks. Starting Fournette and Jones on the same team.
I've done it. That's been fine. It's just the only question I have is this game specifically. I don't know how much they run.
I think they have to run. I mean, I don't know if they will. And I mean, we've all talked about this game and we haven't even brought this up. Arians called out Tom Brady this week again. He said, our quarterback has to play better, or our offense is as good as that quarterback plays. So to throw in that, it just seems like they're going to have pressure, and I think they're going to full-heartedly start, trying to pass the ball. Brady's going to try to prove a point, so that might be a little bit negative for Fournette and Jones. I like Fournette a little bit more in this game than Jones, just for the simple fact that he's a better receiver. I would lean Fournette over T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, I would lean Fournette too, only because he's a vulture near the end too. They'll give him the ball near the goal line sometimes too, but they like Fournette out of the backfield catching the ball. So yeah, I'd probably go with Fournette.
I'm going to go that direction. I don't love it, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Sunday night game, the 5-5 Bears at the Green Bay Packers 7-3. The Packers are laying 9. Over/under is 44. Green Bay is 17-4 against the Bears, including the playoffs since 2010. The Bears, who have a quarterback issue, apparently also have a rushing issue now, because their longest run the last 2 games came from a Barkevius Mingo fake punt, 11 yards. Offense is sputtering. They're going back to Mitch Trubisky in this game. Don't think it's going to matter. Green Bay is going to be angry. They lost last week against the Indianapolis Colts. Green Bay is not so much concerned, I think, about their division, more so getting home games later into the playoffs, because I think they're going to run away with the North. So, Mike, Bears stink. Tell me about Mitch Trubisky. I know he's your favorite player.
He stinks too. I mean, they got problems at quarterback too. So, but again, Trubisky hasn't played in a while either. I don't know, what to expect from him. Is he going to move the ball down the field? Is Green Bay going to be that ticked off that they lost to a Colts team? I mean, they didn't do anything in the second half. So I think Green Bay comes out. I like that, even though it's a lot of points to give the Bears on defense as well with the Bears, I think Green Bay gets it done. I mean, laying the 9 at home, I think they're going to be ticked off. They got to beat a team like this. This is a team you got to win. Chicago has their problems. Trubisky stinks. So I think the Packers go to town on the Bears.
This game right here, I mean, the stat of Mingo, last 2 games. Well, David Montgomery was out. So I think that when you're looking at David Montgomery back, I think you're looking at Mitch Trubisky back. I think you're looking at a Green Bay Packer team that has huge problems stopping the run. That running game is going to be a little bit improved for Chicago. Mitch Trubisky is absolutely awful, but you know what? Nick Foles has been pretty bad as well. I think in this game right here, I'll take the Packers to win, but I'll take the Bears with the 9 points. Defense makes a play here and there. Aaron Rodgers, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this game is going to be a little bit closer. I mean, this is a 7-point game, a 4-point game. Packers win, but Bears cover.
Backdoor cover, yeah.
Speaking of backdoor, we got Anthony Emilio.
There he is, Mitchie.
I love Ant, but I mean, you can't get excited about Mr. Trubisky.
No.
There it is. There it is.
There it is.
Bears are so yeah. They are, but I think I think they're playing a little bit. They'll play a little bit hard.
But I think the bad man's going to have a nice game in this one. So start your Packers. You got them, play them.
I'm picking up Emilio.
This should provide some spirited conversation. Monday Night Football, the Seattle Seahawks 7-3 visiting the 3-6-1 Philadelphia Eagles. Seahawks laying 6 over under 48.5. Seattle 2-3 on the road, 5-0 at home. Russell Wilson 10-1 career against teams with 3 or fewer wins in Week 10 or later. Things are getting so bad in Philadelphia that owner Jeffrey Lurie didn't even go to the game last week in Cleveland. And there are rumors there are rumors that have been denied by head coach Doug Peterson that second-round pick Jalen Hurts was getting some more first-team reps in practice this week. Listen, it's not necessarily like a hill I'm going to die on, but when I look at this Eagles roster, I see a lot of bullshit. I see a lot of slop. I see a lot of older players. I see a lot of guys who aren't very good. So if you're going to start listing the hierarchy of problems the Eagles have, I got a laundry list before I get to Carson Wentz. You can say Carson Wentz playing poorly. Not going to disagree with you. Carson Wentz is going to be on this team next year. They owe him money. So he's going to play. They can't get out of this contract until after next season if they choose to. We have these discussions with the guys who are Eagles fans. Oh, Jalen Hurts, 6 to midnight because Jalen Hurts might get some play. They're going to get killed in this game. I don't even care. But at the end of the day, you're putting Hurts in a situation where he can't succeed. That offensive line is a complete and utter disaster. Lane Johnson's now out for the season. Carson Wentz is the first guy to be sacked 40-plus times in the first 10 games of the year since Tannehill in 2013. Not even when Deshaun Watson had that horrible line and all those sacks did he get sacked 40 more times in the first 10 games. So I don't think that putting Jalen Hurts behind that line is good for Jalen Hurts, number one. It's not good for his team, for number two. I also think that if there's going to be any change in Philadelphia and the owner not going to the Cleveland game out of frustration indicates that there might be in the hierarchy of likelihood, GM, coach, quarterback. Tony.
Well, I think one of the reasons that you're talking about how bad the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line is it's true. I mean, they've had some puzzling lineup decisions. They've had some injuries, everything like that. But you can't just put that all on Carson Wentz's issue about being most sacked. He's held the ball way too long. That's just a fact. For the stage he is in his career, he holds the ball. He looks like a deer in the headlights sometimes back there, and that's one of the other reasons why he gets sacked. So bad offensive line, him holding the ball too long. There's been some numbers out there. It's like one of the worst that there is. I mean, there's one pat. It just when you look it up, I forget the exact number, so I don't want to quit it. It's been horrible. So some sacks are Carson Wentz's fault as well. Another one fault is, if anybody's followed the Eagles and watched what they do, Carson Wentz is pretty good when he rolls out. Doug Peterson said before last week's game that, we have to get Carson on the move more, have to roll out. You know how many times they rolled out? Once. They rolled out one time, and I believe it was in the third quarter. That can't happen. So I think it's a perfect storm of ineptness. Another thing is that, us Cowboy fans get bashed on a lot for Jerry Jones and his meddling and stuff like that. It's coming out now that Jeffrey Lurie is almost as meddlesome, if just not as vocal about it, which is kind of interesting. I think he has a lot of control over Howie Roseman, and I think that's what they're doing here. there's a disconnect between Peterson and Wentz. There's a disconnect between Hurts and Wentz. There's it's not a good recipe. And I think this team is just highlighted for an explosion. But Brian, you're right. Carson Wentz's contract is borderline unmovable. But then again, Al Horford.
I think it's totally unmovable.
Yeah.
But it's not even that. It's
if you could trade Al Horford in the NBA, who knows?
I hear you, but
yeah. So
there is no cap relief to move him.
Well, here's the thing, though. Let's think of it this way, right? Is Jalen Hurts unmovable? No, not at all. You play Hurts. This is the whole season anyway. You play Hurts. See what he is. Audition him for other teams. Okay, there's teams out there that might be looking for him. He plays well. His stock, you flip him for a second rounder, which you should have never even wasted on him in the first place. That's the best case scenario for the Eagles in their quarterback situation because they can't get rid of Wentz. I don't think if they went to play Hurts right now, it's like, hey, we're playing Hurts and he's going to be our quarterback for the future. Unless he comes in and catches lightning in a bottle like a Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson or something like that, which I don't think he's on the same level or ever been on the same level as them guys. I think that's their best scenario. If Jalen Hurts flames out, then you know what you got to put behind Carson Wentz because you need a solid backup behind Carson Wentz. It's just how it is. And I think that's pretty much what they might be looking at. I think it's the right direction too. Listen, I think any team in the NFC East, how they're looking at the game, no one wants to win the division. It's like a hot potato. Oh, you take division. Oh, you take division. We don't want it. We want that top 5 pick. That's what you want. And I think when you're doing that and you're looking at it like that, that should be the goal of any team in the NFC East. Playing Jalen Hurts, it's the right move. He's, like I said, a lot of first-team reps. It's against a bad Seattle secondary, which help him a lot. But here's the other thing, too. When they used Jalen Hurts this year, when he's had these packages and all this nonsense, they really didn't use him. They haven't done anything special with him. So I think they need to go out and they need to see what they really have with this kid. So, Seahawks both.
Actually, Jason Peters is going back to guard because they're such a mess right now. Here's a guy who actually asked for more to play tackle. Now they're moving back to his original spot guard. Not his fault, but they're just a mess right now offensively on the offensive line. Wentz has struggled. The Seattle team coming in. I don't think there's weather in the forecast here. I know it's going to be bad tomorrow in the morning, like 60-mile-an-hour winds or whatever, heavy rain and all that. I don't think it's going to be that way at night. I think it might be light rain maybe, but it's still not going to help anything with the Eagles. I mean, Seattle's defense is bad, and they might move the ball a little bit, go back and forth. But this game's ultimately going to be won by Seattle. I mean, Carson's coming back. You're going to have DK Metcalf out there causing havoc for this secondary along with Lockett. I mean, I think there's too many weapons for the Eagles to handle the way they're playing. I think definitely take Seattle in this game and lay to 6.
Seattle's going to win a game. It doesn't matter how. There's no way around that. But and Mike, we went into this in depth on Tuesday. We had Mike Velarde on talking about Wentz and this whole situation. Brian Hess was just a guest host on our friends over at A2D talking about this whole situation. And they had a question of, did the Eagles get to 5 wins? And nobody thought they were going to get to 5 wins because the next couple games here, the next stretch.
Yeah, you look at their schedule. Where did they get their next win? I mean, they got a tough road.
I'm just, again, and this isn't my team. I genuinely don't care. But from an objective standpoint, I don't look at Carson Wentz as the problem. Because you
have to stop that narrative, bro. You have to stop that narrative.
I'm not stopping that narrative. Everything around him is falling apart. What do you want him to do?
When you watch him play the quarterback position, he has fundamentally regressed.
Yep.
He has not played well. You cannot he didn't play well last year, and this year he started off the season and he hasn't played well. He has not played well. You have to stop with the excuses because eventually it comes down to he's not played well. I mean, when you're talking about last in QBR, last in this, They have more. When you count draft capital and you count the money invested, there's no team that has invested more in a player than the Eagles have. And he has been in the bottom 5 of the league for the last 2 years, not 1, 2 years. So all the excuses have to go out the door.
What's the variable though? From again, injury aside, what's the variable from the MVP that we saw to now?
First of all, that's another thing. stop the MVP narrative. He didn't win the MVP. Okay, people are like, oh, he was playing like an MVP.
Carson Wentz 17 to Carson Wentz now. Injury aside, what's the variable?
3 weeks ago, Russell Wilson was the hands down MVP, and then he shit the bed in the last 2 weeks.
But what I'm saying is that was the year he was at his absolute best. So
right, he was trending towards the MVP until he got hurt.
He was having a good season and got hurt. Okay,
but like Tony says, those last 3 games he might have played like crap and
okay. I'm using the award as a he played how he played that year, which is very different than how he's playing right now.
He was playing well.
Okay. Injury aside, what's the variable? Coaching. Frank Reich is gone. I think Doug Peterson is a first-class moron. I think he's a terrible head coach.
I understand that too, but I think Frank Reich and the offense fit better with Nick Foles at some point too, and Frank Reich was smart. Well, you're right. Peterson's a moron, but Frank Reich was able to put Carson Wentz in better situations to succeed.
Right, I was going to say that. Yep.
Okay, but you know what? Boo fucking who? Eventually, he has to play.
But look at okay. So what I'm saying is, what do you think is
Ryan? You have to watch the games. He is. Listen, what 2 years ago, I was in the camp where Wentz was better than Dak. Okay, I was firmly in camp. He has more talent. He's playing better. Dak has progressed. His footwork has gotten better. His accuracy has gotten better. He has progressed, and you have to admit that. Wentz has regressed, whether it's due to injury or whatever. He hasn't played, but he holds the ball too long. He doesn't make good decisions. That's not always a product of coaching. When you're out there on the field, you sit there and watch him. He just doesn't play well. There's a reason why a lot of Eagles fans don't like him.
Right. He might not be making a ton of plays. He's got to make a play by like accident with his talent. And he's not making any plays. Like Tony said, he's going in reverse is what he's doing.
But here's what I'm saying. What do you think is an easier situation? Keep the same coach and change the quarterback, or keep the same quarterback and change the coach?
The coach won a Super Bowl. The quarterback didn't.
It's true.
So does that mean that you're free drinks forever in the NFL? Like you can't be fired, you can't be questioned because you had to go
So how long do you run Carson Wentz out there and continue to have a bottom 5 quarterback?
So in my opinion, what I would do if I were them, assuming this goes the way it's going to go, is I clean house in the entire front office. The GM goes, the coach goes, to bring in a new coach with this quarterback who I have for one more year to deal I can't get out of anyway. What happens with the new coach? If it fails after that, you reassess.
But if that's your plan, there's no reason not to go with Jalen Hurts right now.
I'm not even disputing that. Other than the fact that to me, this is a situation where like you're making a change at quarterback. To me, the narrative of we're going to just play him that doesn't work when you have a quarterback on this kind of a contract. Like he's supposed to be your guy. No, till death do you part. That's your guy while that contract is there.
Hey, okay. So look at it this way. Don't run him out there behind that shit offensive line as he's holding the ball too long and get killed. Take him off the field. See what you have in Hurts. If he's something, you get some capital back for him, and then you move forward with a new regime with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a win-win situation, and it helps your tanking.
The Eagles have themselves in a very bad situation right now, and it's gotten worse with the injuries that they have. I mean, they paid a guy for 5 years who they thought was going to be their guy moving forward and their franchise guy. And like Tony said, he's gotten progressively worse. And you brought in a guy in Jalen Hurts with that high pick that you gave up for him, and he's not playing right now because really the Carson Wentz contract is ridiculous in the way of if you cut him or if you trade him, it's fine. But if you cut him, it's such a cap hit that they're just in a bad spot right now. They want to try to move on. They want to get this thing right, but you got to go with Hurts eventually at some point if this goes the way it's going.
I mean, I disagree with the Carson Wentz contract is such a bad contract because all these other quarterbacks passed him. I mean, I mean, is he top 10 contract still?
No.
I think he's currently getting paid market value.
What's bad about it, Tone, is that extension hasn't even started yet. The extension hasn't even started yet, and we're having these discussions, and that's where I get off the train here.
He goes to 2025.
You gave him money. Because like Tony said, the market showed for you're trying to save a little bit down the road, thinking that he's going to become that quarterback and you'll save a little bit of money with that deal. But he's getting worse. That's the problem you have now. He's going the other direction. So it even looks worse now. So I don't know. You got to if you're sold on Jalen Hurts, maybe next year, giving him a shot or whatever and getting through this year with Wentz.
But
and
see,
you make the move, you try to trade Wentz. But I don't know how you trade that.
But look at the contract like this, guys. Okay, in 2025, Carson Wentz's contract runs out, correct?
Yep.
By then, you got guys like Kyler Murray who are going to be making more money than him. You got Joe Burrow that's going to be making more money than him, probably.
Sure.
Herbert's going to be making more money. Carson Wentz's contract isn't even going to be top 10 in 3 years.
Sure. No, I understand that.
So, I mean, if he gets his act together and heads, with a new regime, listen, there's no perfect pill right now for the Eagles organization, except get healthy. And get somebody in there that's a little bit more competent than Peterson. Sure. But I think just because the head coach is bad and the offensive line is bad does not absolve the quarterback from being bad. Everybody should be accountable.
No, it doesn't absolve. But what I'm saying is, like, it's hard to say he's the primary problem. And again, I believe the GM. I think the GM and coach are tied together, and they both go if Wentz fails. I think there's a very good chance they both go at the end of the year. I really believe that. Quick fancy question for you. Who would you rather have in a COVID insurance situation if the Steelers-Ravens game, which we're about to talk to, does not get played? James White or Denzel Mims?
James White or Denzel Mims?
Or Russell Gage. I was leaning him third.
I go James White. I think Burkhead is out, correct? Burkhead's out. White's going to get more touches. I think if they're going to throw the ball a little bit to get in that Arizona game, which has the potential to kind of have some offense in it. So I'd lean James White.
We didn't even talk about Seattle and all that time.
I mean, what are you going to talk about? Carson's back, right? Chris Carson's back. Russell Wilson, hasn't played bad, but they falter a little bit. That defense has just been abysmal for the most part. Jamal Adams, complete waste of space at times, but he said he's all of a sudden he's playing injured. I mean, that Jamal Adams where he pulled up or when he tried to cut that coverage the other day, I mean, the Jets want to trade, and that's pretty much the only thing that they won all season. So, Eagles need to move on from older players. Well, guys like Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson, I mean, even if they were healthy this season, I think it was foolhardiness to think that they were going to come in and make a huge impact. But, Jeffrey and these guys, the contracts that they get paid, Alshon Jeffrey, you couldn't move. I mean, there's nothing you could do with him, and he pretty much gave up last week and, on that one interception too. So you're looking at a lot of problems in the Eagles organization.
Real quick, that question I asked you before, did I mention I have Russell Gage as well?
You said you thought Russell Gage, but no, I'd still say James White. I mean, I think Damian Harris, James White combo. I don't think Sony Michel, who's back, is going to be worked into that offense as much. And I like White out of the backfield. I think they need to utilize him a little bit more.
So I just started. I have Andrews in my league, tight end. He's not going to play now. So I have Jonnu Smith from Tennessee, and I just picked up Gesicki from Miami. So I'm starting Gesicki.
Jonnu. I like Smith.
He hasn't done much in the last 2 games.
Well, Fisker's been the guy who's getting a lot of touches in that offense right there. I would go with Gesicki. I think he has a little with Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
I bet you a Starbucks, Tony, but I think you not really much of a Starbucks guy.
Starbucks hot chocolate, I'll drink. All right, we'll bet Starbucks.
There you go.
I'll take Johnny. You take either way. I get to guess. I get to go to Starbucks, so I don't lose.
Not in Hamilton.
No, that's true. Last but not least, guys. First of all, before I even get into this, is this game going to get played?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I have my doubts, but we'll see. Assuming it does, the Baltimore Ravens are 6-4. They visit the 10-0 Pittsburgh Steelers, laying 9.5 over under 41.5 because half the entire Ravens roster is not going to be able to play. No Lamar Jackson, no Mark Andrews, and that's just some of the highlights. There's no Mark Ingram. There's no J.K. Dobbins. There's guys in defense aren't going to play. COVID is running rampant throughout the Baltimore Ravens. That's a problem. It's more of a problem because Pittsburgh's 10-0. They're allowing 17.4 points per game, fewest in the league. This is a game. It's not a matter of how bad Pittsburgh's going to win, but just by how much. Pittsburgh's going to win. The question is, what's Baltimore going to do? What are they going to do?
Resurrect the ghost of RG3 from Washington in his rookie season. I mean, that's pretty much what they're.
Is it a sideline run, that long run?
Yeah, as a football fan, I mean, I think we were all cheated with this game right here. I think hopefully, they play down the line a little bit. I mean, that first matchup between Baltimore and Pittsburgh was good. I think, there was a couple late plays there that Pittsburgh took advantage of, and Baltimore really beat them from end to end for most of the game until so it'd been really nice to see a rematch. Two of the top teams in the league. So, as fans, we're cheated a little bit. I mean, Baltimore's missing with James Conner, so we'll see a little bit more Benny Snell. Ravens defense, I mean, if they could hit Ben Roethlisberger, I think they have a chance. I mean, there's, whenever you're playing the Steelers, you have a fighter's chance if you could get to Roethlisberger. But with that said, I'm not laying 9.5 points though. I mean, I just think the Ravens defense is too good. I'll take the Ravens with the points, but Steelers to win outright.
I'll do the same thing because I think that defense is the only reason they're going to stay in this game, and I think they can keep it close for a little while. They're going to have to. It's the only way they're going to stop Pittsburgh in this game with everything going on. I'll take the Ravens too, plus the 9.5, and I think it'll be close. Pittsburgh will win, but I think it'll be close.
I don't know how Baltimore scores points. I don't.
Well, listen, if we go around the NFL right now, right, and we go to see who's the worst quarterback, I think Robert Griffin is better than a lot of the other options that are out there. Glennon, Hill, Hilson, Trubisky. I mean, let's he's not the worst. I mean, Pittsburgh, who they play? Jake Luton the other week. I mean, Garrett Gilbert gave them problems, with the Cowboys. I mean, I'm not. Listen, I think Pittsburgh is a fraudulent 10-0. I think they're probably one of the worst 10-0 teams that I've ever seen. They've struggled with teams that they should be dominant against. If Kansas City right now and Pittsburgh were playing on a neutral site, or even Kansas City or Pittsburgh, I'm taking Kansas City. So I'm not too high on the Steelers, and they played a lot of close games. So I think RG3. He might be able to get enough done. I mean, Gus the Bus Edwards. Let's see how it plays out a little bit. I think Steelers win. I think 7-point game. I mean, if they win by 10, I wouldn't be shocked. But if I had to bet it, I'd take Ravens with the points.
And that wraps up Week 12. Maybe we'll see this game. Maybe we won't. We're all going to find out. Thank you guys for watching Week 12 preview here on the Sports Box, and give love to our friends over at CrowdPlay. At CrowdPlay app on Twitter. Download the app, Google Play, Apple App Store. Free to play. Use the box at sign up, get 10 free points. Here's a little more information about them. CrowdPlay. Mike, take us out.
So, for myself, Hamilton Mike Galetta, Tony Quigley, and Brian the Ranger Taru, thank you for watching the NFL preview. Enjoy the games. We will see you next week.
See you guys.
Thank you for watching the Sports Box. Follow us on Facebook at Sports Box Show, Twitter at Sports Box Show, Instagram at The Sports Box Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our friends at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 points. See you next time.